Hey, who's here tonight? I got two people, but I can't see you. I'm trying to set this up on the computer too. I don't know if that's gonna work. I think it might be easier to see the comments this way. Maybe. I don't know. All right, I got comments running. Can everybody hear me? Hey, Clifton. Can you hear me okay? Hey, there you go. Said a yes? Yes, you can hear me. Okay, good deal. Well, I tell you what, Clifton, you were first. So if you'll ping me on Facebook, I'll send you out some stickers. Oh, the volume's good. Great. Yeah, we moved into the garage. It's got too hot out in the shop. It was 103 last week, and so I kind of commandeered the household garage. As you can tell, it's a little different. It works out pretty well. It's going to be hard to give this up, for sure. All right, you're welcome, Clifton. I appreciate it. So what's on everybody's mind tonight? Hey, Bill. How you doing? Got gaskets coming in. They should be here Wednesday for the 350X going back together. I know that's a big video for me. I'll be glad to get it off my plate. Hopefully that'll be next weekend's video. Otherwise, I'm filming a video behind me, and otherwise that one will air. Hey Logan, how are you doing? Can y'all hear that fan running in the background? Is that too loud? Or is that okay? Andy's Hondas from the UK. All right, well, I guess it's pretty early over there. Y'all ahead of us. What's it like? 3 in the afternoon? Fan's good. Okay, appreciate it, Logan. So what's going on in the UK? What's popular over there, Andy? What's the most popular bike? You're also sitting there working on trikes. Yeah, it's a fun thing to do. Okay, appreciate it. Andy, what's the most popular trike over in the UK? Hey, CJ. I don't know if he hears or not. Well, I had a poll come out yesterday. What was your favorite trike? And I gotta say, it was interesting. I was surprised at the outcome. I really was. I really thought the 250R would probably be the number one pick. Andy says there's not many trikes over in the UK. Well, y'all know whose fault that is. You know, Preston's buying them up over there and bringing them back over here. So y'all hold him accountable for that. He'll probably show up in here sooner or later. Huh. So not many trikes over there in the UK. So were they popular in the 80s or not at all? They just never were there. Well, there's 5.5s. He showed up. What's up? Not many trikes over there. It's interesting where they got popular and where they didn't. Marysville, Washington. Okay. Well, it's early over there for you. probably cold too. You're pretty far up north. Probably some good riding weather right now. So what's everybody working on? Tonight's video is going to be about this 200X. Went back through it. It came in last year, and we did a willet run on it, and we got it up and running. And honestly, I just pushed it in the corner. I had other things come in that kind of took my attention, and so I felt it was time to bring it back in. And so they're both 85s, and so there'll be a good comparison. I'm going to kind of point out some of the differences between the two. There's a big story between these two bikes. I found these two bikes about 2.5 hours apart from one another, but one was taken care of and one wasn't. And so, though from a distance they both look pretty good, there's a lot going on kind of underneath. Once you pull the plastics off of them, you can really kind of tell a lot. But what's interesting about it, and what next week's video is going to be about, is basically a parts bike, and how you can take two bikes of the same make and model and kind of shake them up and make the best one out of the two, and then you have some choice to make on how you want to handle the second one, or what you want to do with it. Oh, Lou Patello's here now. I'll look up Lou. Hey, Lou. Lou's a couple of hours from me. He's a Florida guy too. Not always. When you talk to him, you'll know real quick he's not from here, but he is here. Y'all look up Lou on Facebook. He's the admin over on King of the Hill. He's a 350X guy. That's his bread and butter. That's his passion. So if y'all have a 350X and you're looking for parts, or just really, information, tips and tricks and stuff, y'all be sure and check out that forum on Facebook. It's not Over the Hill. Sorry, Lou. King of the Hill on Facebook, and y'all look him up if you need some 350X help. He's the go-to guy. Hanky says it's hot in California. It's always hot in California, isn't it? But y'all don't have the humidity. We sweat here in Florida. Looks like Clifton's working on the 84 200S. So you've got, that's a rigid rear and a suspended front. That's a solid machine. That 185S and the 200S. 200's got a little bit bigger chassis underneath it, not by much. I think it's like an inch difference if you look at the specs on that. But 200S is really a good machine. I've had 4 or 5 of them. Very popular machine. They seem to have sold a lot of those. I think the price difference between it and say a 200X was about $500, and that kept a lot of people in the 80s buying the 200S, a little bit lesser price point bike. But overall, a great bike. He's getting back to me. Andy says that there was not a lot of three-wheelers even in the 80s in the UK. Okay. Let's see, 55 wants to donate some parts. Well, 55s, I kind of keep my address and stuff kind of private. So if you'll look me up on either Instagram or Facebook, I'll be happy to give you that information. But I appreciate it. Whatever you want to donate, we'll take it. We'll put it to good use. Yeah, you need a shipping address or email. So if you'll look me up on Facebook, I'll be happy to give that to you. 55s. Zero humidity in California out there. That's where Hanky's at, like a bonfire. Okay, I could get used to that. That does sound good. I guess if you're close enough to the coast, you'll get a coastal breeze, and so that'll probably help too. Andy's got a CR60, so that's a 2-stroke. Is it 60 or CR80? I'm not familiar with the 60. I know a CR80 in 84. It's a 2-stroke. I would probably consider it a youth dirt bike. Fun bike for sure. That's a great way to get into 2-strokes. When you were younger, there was a guy that lived down the road from me. He had a YZ80, and that thing would fly. He'd blow the doors off of anything else that I ever had. I had a couple of 4-strokes, but that YZ80, I know it's a Yamaha, but it wasn't mine. It was a fun bike though. Yeah, the CR80s, they do rev high. I don't know what the rev limiter on those are, They're probably up there, what, $9,000 or something like that? 8, I don't know. It's up there. So that, okay, so Clifton's 80. Let's see. I'm sorry, Clifton, you got the 200S. That's cool that you still have it. I was looking at, I don't know, we were all probably pretty close to the same age bracket, so we all probably had a lot of the same hobbies. And so I got caught up on Instagram looking at old freestyle bicycles the other night. I don't know if y'all were into doing the tricks and the ramps and that kind of stuff on BMX bikes. But I still have mine from when I was a kid. And it was one of the first things I ever really saved up and bought. I cut grass for an entire summer, maybe 2. And I bought it used. I knew a guy that had it and said 85, I'll bring it out one day. It's an 85 Haro Freestyler Sport. And I still have it to this day, and I need to get it back out. Clifton says he's 44 young. Okay, well, you're a little younger than me, Clifton, but not by much. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he was asking about subscribers on the channel and so forth. And I said, yeah, but you got to remember that the guys our age, we're not out subscribing and we're not spending all day on the internet. The demographics for this channel is between 30 and 50, kind of give you an idea. So it's not exactly a young crowd. It's, we're all pretty close together. Hankey's picking up a bunch of stuff. Y'all better watch out for Hankey Bannister out there. Said he just picked up an 82 RM 125, so that's a 4-stroke. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that's a 4-stroke dirt bike. 83 200E, so that's your second year of the first gen Big Red. You had high-low, no reverse, chain drive on that bike. That's the same engine that I put in the Van Halen bike. It's the 82 200E Big Red engine. A total mess, yeah. Yeah, it needs a seat and an entire exhaust. Well, Hankey, if you can weld, then I would probably recommend the CRF 230 exhaust. I put that on the Van Halen bike actually. A little bit of welding. I'm told you can just kind of bend it and manipulate it and make it fit. I found it was better to actually pie cut it in a few places, increase the turn radius. I welded that up with stainless steel MIG wire. It looks great today, just like it did a year ago when I built it. It didn't rust up. It has all the same properties as stainless steel. That would be an inexpensive way to get an exhaust. And as for a seat, remember the 84 Red was the first year of the plastic pan. So Hankey, get an 84 Big Red seat if you need a seat and pan, or you can get an 84, 85, 200M seat. Those are also plastic pans. And then you can just buy an inexpensive cover and foam if need be and recover it. I have bought many 84. Remember, that was the most popular year they made the Big Red. You could pick that seat up at any of your forum. Somebody's going to be parking a bike out. So check that out. You can get the entire seat that way if you buy it used. Maybe you find a good one that only needs a cover. But you can staple. If you'll get an electric stapler, they're great. They're about 50 bucks, 40 bucks on Amazon. There's probably a link in the description. I picked up one. I've redone a couple of seats with it. It pays for itself really quick. It makes the job a lot neater because you're putting more staples into it because it's so much easier to use. So check that out, Hankey. 84 Big Red seat has a plastic bottom, easy to rebuild, or an 84, 85, 200M. Okay, so Andy says it is a CR60. Okay, I'm not familiar with that bike. That must be entry-level kids 2-stroke, then I guess. So apparently it's a rare bike. Well, that does make parts hard to find, for sure. How many did they make? How many's in your area? How many of them are still around? Those are all variables that you run into dealing with rare bikes. Yeah, Hankey, that seat, it's the same seat pan is used for 3 different years. Like I said, the 82, 83 Big Red, the 84 Big Red, and then that seat carried over to the 84, 85, 200M. And so that's easy to do that. So what else are y'all working on? I haven't found any good deals lately. I've been looking. I look all the time. I haven't really found anything close by. I'm not familiar with the TRX 200. That's a four-wheeler. I know it's the same engine and trans. I believe it's the same rear diff. Torque tube would be different because it's got suspension on it. I don't think it's the same. I think the four-wheeler is a little longer. So I wouldn't try that swap there, Logan. You're telling me you may already know. I've never tried that swap. I did find an 84 CR250R, and I didn't get it in time, but that would have been fun. Yeah, the seat's longer. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Logan. That four-wheeler, they kind of stretched out the wheelbase a little bit, and that's right where they added it, right at the seat. It seems like they pushed the rack back a little bit, made the seat a little bit longer, and by doing that, they were able to make the wheelbase a little bit longer. That was the first year suspended four-wheeler. First year four-wheeler, first year rear suspended four-wheeler. So there's a lot going on back there. I had one, and I shouldn't have sold it. I bought it up. We did a Will It Run on it. The bike ran. I sold it because I just didn't really see a want or a project for it. But it would have been really nice to take that rear assembly and stick underneath a 84 Big Red, and then had a suspended 84 Big Red. Upgrades for, let's see, hey Denny. Hey Clifton. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Let's see. Denny Snuffer, he's asking a question for any upgrades on the 84 Big Red. 84 Big Red's my favorite. Denny, when you say upgrades, what are we referring to? Are we talking about suspension, tires, horsepower, and where do you want the upgrade to be? I guess is what I'm asking. That is a bulletproof bike. It really is. That front suspension is not good. I would certainly advise you to look into a 200M front end. Logan knew I was fixing to say that. Okay, Denny's looking for accessories. Well, it's a Big Red, so you could get a cage headlight cover for it. You could get hand guards, original. Actually, Handel made some guards that came out in front of your hand. They made a windscreen. They made a mud flap. Nobody likes a mud flap. The cooler on the back. You could do a generator on the back. I guess that's such an open area to accessories. What type of accessories were you thinking, Denny? Help me out a little bit. For the 12-volt plug. Okay. They made a spotlight for the 12-volt plug. If you can find the male side adapter that goes in, you could wire up anything for the 12-volt. For that matter, you could run, a radio, a flashlight, a tire pump. Logan's suggestion is a tire pump. I wonder why they discontinued those. If you looked on the US 90s, originally right underneath the back seat, just inside on the frame, they actually had a Honda tire pump, and I would think that would be something cool that all of the bikes really should have, like the toolkit, if you will. But that 12-volt plug, it's not fused very heavy. You're not going to be able to put a lot on it. But nowadays, you could probably do a really nice floodlight, spotlight, a handheld light if you wanted to. Your 84 does not. The headlight is rigid, so it doesn't come off. But I think that would be probably very useful. Be like a work light that plugs in, a radio that plugs in, so you could take it off at night if you didn't want to leave it on the bike overnight or often. Trying to think what else. You could probably get real creative with a low voltage cooler. They make an electric cooler that guys are using. They're using them on their four-wheelers to take their cold snacks with them. You could mount that on the rack and then plug it into your 12-volt. Anything 12-volt, which nowadays a winch, there you go. I wasn't even thinking winch. Yeah, you could do that, or you could hardwire a winch. You wouldn't have to use your accessory. The reason I say that is, unless you're going to take the winch on and off a lot and switch it around between bikes, I would hardwire it. because more than likely you're not going to take it off. But if it's a small portable winch and you do plan on taking it on and off, then yeah, a plug would work for that. The only problem you may run into is I think that's a 6-volt fusible link that runs to that. That's back to battery. You may have to upgrade that wiring. It may not. A winch is going to pull a lot of power through that plug, and I don't think that plug is going to be rated enough. If you try it, use the winch and see if the wiring gets hot or if you start blowing fuses. And if you do, then don't go down that road. A winch has a huge draw on an electrical system. Most of those will run like a 30 amp breaker or a 30 amp fuse. Automotive, you could even go with a 60 amp fuse on those. All right, Clifton's got a question for us. What do you got here, Clifton? How bad is it on the recoil system to start my 200S without the decompression cable hooked up? Recoil assembly seems to be very expensive parts in there. Yes, Clifton. I'm going to tell you, most people, if your bike is not new, and what I mean by that, if it doesn't have a fresh rebuild top end, you're fine. Most guys, that decomp system breaks and they don't fix it because it is expensive, and it's kind of hard to work on it. Looks like James Perry, he says he's got a 200S, and we'll come back to that, Clifton. I'm not leaving you, but we can work him in there too. James, you need to get a bigger rope. If you keep breaking the rope on yours, you need to upgrade to a thicker, better rope. But I'll tell you something, both of you. A lot of guys will just grab a T-handle and they'll just snatch it. And it goes, all that slack gets pulled out of the rope and then it catches, and that's a huge load on your recoil. The best thing to do is to take your rope and just pull it taut until the rope is tight, and then pull hard. And then go down, let your rope, get the slack out of it. Don't jerk it until that slack comes out of the rope and then start your bike. Take the slack out of the rope and then pull it. That'll take a lot of the load and the shock off of your recoil system. But back to what I was saying, Clifton. If your bike is not freshly rebuilt, and here's the difference. The freshly rebuilt is going to have more compression, and then therefore it would be a little harder on your recoil system. But I would say it's not a big deal. Most of the bikes out there today that have the recoil system, it doesn't work. The cable that runs between them, they're very hard to find. When they break, they're very expensive if you find one. So get a bigger rope would be the recommendation. If you're fraying your rope, if your rope's breaking, upsize to the next size rope. If you can find, they make a rope, the original rope Honda had a wax coating on it, and that's kind of what kept the contaminants out of it, oil and water and things of that nature. You can still find that. It's a cotton rope that has a wax coating on it. My local hardware store has a comparable rope. I don't have it to show you, but it's a little bit bigger in diameter. And so you can even take that rope and you can even soak it in like a light oil and then wrap it up. I know it'd get kind of nasty working with it. You can oil it afterwards, but a wet or oiled rope is a lot stronger than a dry rope. Same if it was good wet. But do that, James, Clifton. Don't worry about it. I think you'll be fine. Yeah, that recoil with the decomp system in it is a pain. It took me forever to figure out how the bail mine's kind of, everybody should be kind of a yellow bail. Well, it's a metal bail that sits inside of a yellow ring that sits on the outside of the actual center hub. But yeah, it's a real pain, but I don't think it's necessary. Now you could actually do that manually. You can reach over the tank with, say, your left hand, lift up on the decomp just like you can on the big reds, and start it that way. So that's an option too. Joe Fix It. He says, can you add ladder manual decompression lever to older models with recoil activated decomp? Manual. Yes, you can add a manual. You can use it manually. You can actually just reach over the tank and pick it up. I don't think it has the same detent in it as the other ones, but you could change that out. But you would have to take the whole head off and change it out because there's a retainer on the inside of that. Yes, Denny Snuffer, they do still make that headlight. Download the free manual, look up your replacement headlight bulb, put that in Google, and you'll be able to find it online. Amazon, eBay. You may be able to find one local, something else that uses it. It is a strange bulb though. It's a really fat, short bulb. It is 12 volts for that particular bike, but they do make it. I don't have the number with me off the top of my head. The LED light, now that's going to be a different question. I don't know that they're going to make an LED light that plugs into that socket. Best bet probably would be to find a normal or a more modern socket and change the socket out, and that may take some adapting and some some work. You may be better off trying to find a already made composite 3x5, I believe, or is it a 5x4? So you have to measure your light. They make a full lens and light that's LED, Denny. Don't look just for the bulb. Look for a whole fixed light bulb that's LED, and that can be plug and play. So hopefully, let me know if that answers your question. I think that'll work. It plugs in but blows. Let's see. I got to get caught up here, James. Okay, so James has got he's putting LEDs in his bike and he's blowing them. So back, tell me what? Yeah, your regulator. Okay. So James, you've got a lot of these bikes, like the 200X, the voltage is not regulated, and that's why when you put LEDs in them, they'll sit there and they'll kind of flash or flicker until the RPMs come up, and that's because the information is not, the voltage is not regulated. You can get an aftermarket voltage regulator, which is the little black box that sits on the back of the battery. It's an electronic component that takes the unregulated voltage from the stator, it regulates it, and then sends it out back to the accessories in the battery. In essence, that's what it does. So you can get an aftermarket regulator and put it on your system. I'm not exactly sure how to do that. I've only done it once. I did it on a 200S actually. So here's what I want you to do, James. If you'll go over to, write this down, threewheelerworld.com, go into the search window of that website, and it's nothing but three-wheelers, and type in voltage regulator or LED light conversion. Either of those two kind of search words, you're going to see probably 5 or 6 articles that exactly explain piece by piece, part numbers, because that's how I followed it, in order to put an LED light on your bike. And that would apply to any of these bikes. But if your bike already has a battery, like a Big Red electric starter 200M, then you've already got a voltage regulator. You've already got 12 volts because that's what the battery is, and those can all run LED lights. When you have 185S or 200S or 200X, they are unregulated. They don't have the output that you need really to run the more modern lights without a regulator. So that goes for everybody. If y'all want to go over to threewheelerworld.com, you can search in there. I don't even think you have to join. It's a great place though. It's a ton of information. That's where I got my start. You can go over there and you can actually find a schematic, parts list of everything you need to put an LED light on your three-wheeler. So there you go. Seth Janikowski, is the 350X going to be restored? Yes and no, Seth. I don't like using the word restored. To me, a restored bike is kind of a bike that is exactly the way it left the factory. That's not kind of what I do. I don't worry about the tires being OE tires. I don't worry about those types of things. I may put different tires and equipment on a bike based on cost or price or availability. That's how I build bikes. So, and is it going to be finished? Yes. I've got the engine tore apart over here. Gaskets will show up this Wednesday, and we'll put the 350X back together and get it running. I have another engine, so we're going to hopefully leave our problems behind in the first engine. I've got a kicking issue. If you saw last week's video, I rebuilt that engine, I put it in the bike, and still had problems. That bike needs a lot of work. So it looks good at 50 feet, or on the internet it looks really good. But it needs rear main bearings, so we're going to replace the carrier and the rear axle bearings on that bike. It needs head bearings need to be addressed. Either they're loose or they need to be replaced, so we're going to do that too. I don't know if it's going to be a frame off tear down. Not this year, probably. I've got this 200X behind me. I think it needs a top end. I've ordered a top end kit for it, so we're going to be doing some motor work on it. And we're going to be maybe taking one of these and doing a frame off with that. So that's probably this year's big project. Maybe next year we could do, I really want to get back on the 250R. I really do. That's kind of where my heart is right now, is the 250R. And I kind of want to take it to the next level. But the 350X is staying. That bike is a permanent fixture here. It is not for sale, and it won't be. So I've got, it's a keeper for me. It's the only one I have found for sale in the last 3 years local to me. So I'm going to keep it. So yeah, you're going to see a lot more of it. There you go. No problem, James. Hey man, I don't think it's stuff the first time either. It's not a big deal. I'm glad you got your answer though. That's the most important part. Denny Snuffer wants to know if there's any maintenance on the 84 Big Red drive shaft. You could pull it and you could grease the splines. You have a spline input and a spline output on that drive shaft, meaning on the engine side and on the rear diff side. It is non-serviceable, as in the joints. There's no grease fitting, so that's an unserviceable joint. That tube does not have grease in it or oil in it. There really is no serviceable way to service that machine. If you're experiencing problems, you may need to just replace the U-joints on either end, but it's not greasable. There really is no maintenance to that. It is a sealed system, and it was designed that way to stay sealed. Donut Dan, I like that name. Donut Dan. Right from the machine shop for the top end on my daughter's 200S. Any tips or trips you'd like to share on reassembly? Do you use any gasket sealer at all? Yes, Donut Dan, I do. I like to use a lot of grease, actual wheel bearing grease. And when wheel bearing grease gets in oil, it breaks down and just becomes more oil. It's I don't have. That's why I use it when I build engines. If you watched last week's video, you saw me. I put literal amounts of grease in the head where the cam sits, and then I also put grease on top of each of the valve springs. And that is actual just wheel bearing grease. It's nothing special. It's wheel bearing grease. It stays put. And I like it. It breaks down into oil, and it becomes the oil. So I don't feel like I'm putting anything in there that's not a lubricant. A clean area to work with, Dan. That's the best thing you can do. I'm fixing to have to clean off my counter back behind me, and get ready for that 350X. Cleanliness goes a long way. The cap. Most of your gasket kits that you buy for all of these engines, the actual skull cap or valve cover cap, I don't know what, depends on what you want to call it, does not have a gasket. Most of your gasket companies, that does not come with a gasket. I like Honda Bond. I just started using it. I used to use RTV, but let me show you what Honda Bond, I just got some in. Now this works a lot like an RVT. You could pick I got this on Amazon. I think it was around $7 or $8, which is as cheap or cheaper than your RVT. I do that backwards every time. RTV in your Napa or your auto parts store. So if you've got time, I like it. Here's what I like about it. It's thicker than regular RTV. It stays put, and it's easier to clean up. Now when it bonds, it's more of a glue and less of a silicone. And so that's kind of a good thing. So I always use it for the top cap because that does not come with the gaskets. I'm glad you liked it, Danny. Thank you. I appreciate that. No. I'm not that smart. No, that's the thing about car guys, Hanky. we'd find something to talk about. I kind of command the floor right now, but I'd have to turn it over to somebody else real soon. It's, you know, automotive, I tell people this all the time. What you learn on these little machines here will transfer over to your lawnmower, your car, for the rest of your life. And I know most of us in this room are about the same age, but young people, if you can instill in them that, you know, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, and hot's on the left and cold's on the right, and poo runs downhill, those 5 principles will take you so far in life. It really is. A lot of stuff is just that simple. Okay, so Denny's going to bring the beer. Okay. Let's see, we got a question. Denny wants to know about, do I recommend axle spacers? Yeah, I do, if you can find them. That's going to be the problem, Denny. The 84, it's got a 1-on-144 bolt pattern, I think, which is a really big 4-lug pattern. And the problem you're going to find is I'm not sure who's going to make wheel spacers for that. That's kind of one of the hang-ups. Now, they used to make them. I've had them. You could get 2-inch aluminum blocks, spacers that had longer bolts run through them, and that was very common back in the 80s. If you can find the 144 bolt pattern, by all means, yes, 2-inch spacers would be just fine. I put spacers on everything I ride. That's just part of, for the way I like to ride a 3-wheeler. I don't go through a lot of narrow trails, so the narrow width and the big and wider is not a problem. I would not push it much past 2 inches on either side, Denny, just because that load is multiplied on the axle. So, just to kind of, if anybody else is interested in spacers, Denny, if you cannot find wheel spacers in that bolt pattern, then your next option is to change the hubs to a more common bolt pattern. The 4-on-110, which is what these are back here. You can get those, but then that's going to mean you're going to have to buy wheels. Now, your 84's got 9-inch wheels, if I'm not mistaken, 25 by 12 by 9s. You can find a 9-inch wheel in a 4-on-110 bolt pattern to fit a common hub. So if you're going to go that far, then you might as well go on and don't buy spacers, but buy some 300 or some 400 EX hubs. Those hubs will fit onto your axle. They are built in at least 2 inches. Then use your modern wheel, and put them on 4-on-110 pattern, and then put your 25-inch tall tires on those. You're too cheap for all that. Well, those are your options, Denny. You can you may luck into something. I tell you what you can do. You could probably find a 300 EX that's blowed up somewhere. You could probably buy it cheap, take the whole wheels, tires, hubs, and everything and slap it right on your 3-wheeler and go. And when you got ready and wanted new tires, you buy tires to fit those wheels. That's a cheap way to go. And that's what this video is about coming up next week, is buying a bike and using it as a parts bike. So you may look into that too. Hanky's got an 83 250R. Well, I'm a little jealous. Okay, he's got Vito's Performance 400 EX hubs on the rear. He gained quite a few inches of width without the spacer. So just as I was saying, Hanky's done that exact same thing. He is buying the more modern hubs. There's spacers basically built into those. Where they bolt to where the hub bolts, that relationship is a much further apart, and therefore you're already gaining width that way. Yeah, do that. Try the Honda Bond. I think you'll notice a significant difference, Dan. I was not a believer until recently. I started using it probably a little last year, and I really started noticing the differences between the two. And so from now on, for the money, I'd rather use Honda Bond and do it for that. But as for the rest of it, I do like using gaskets. I understand you can't do it all the time. But it's certainly the reason we're waiting on the 350X gasket is because the cases are split, and I am not about to put them back together and run the risk of just using some type of sealant. That's a whole lot of work. You're talking about completely reassembling the engine, putting it in the bike, test firing it to find out you have a leak. I can't do that. That drives me nuts. So you're probably, when y'all watch that video, you're probably going to see me do both. I'm probably going to do Honda Bond and a gasket, just because I don't want to go through that process twice. All right, Denny's got another question. Polishing plastic. Yes and no, Denny. A lot of that, isn't it? So, original Honda plastic can be buffed, it can be cut, it can be sanded, it can be polished back and look wonderful. New plastic, meaning Mayer aftermarket plastic, is a different kind of plastic. It is. I don't know enough about plastic to talk about it. You cannot buff and polish. You can't use a heat gun on it like you can an original. Hey, John. Hey, I like them too. Like an original plastic, they just don't respond the same way to those techniques. I'm sure you probably can do a light buff job on the newer plastics, but it is not the same as the original OE stuff. If you've got OE fenders, yes, you can wet sand them, let's say 600 grit or 800 grit, and then come back to them, you have originals, good. You can 600 to 800 grit, and then you can come back with a polishing compound, and you can polish them back up. And OE stuff just reacts different to that type of technique. You can also hit them with a heat gun, and you can actually take them, and the color will come back through a heat gun. Yes, you can plastic weld the Mayers just like the OEs. That process does work. I think the OEs were thicker, and I think that had a little bit more to do with it than the composition of the plastic. The Mayers, these are all Mayers on both of these lights. I can't reach them. But the plastic is much thinner than your OE plastics. Let's see. It's Mayer plastics that were faded, that would not buff back out. Yep, that's what I found too, Hanky. I said that the Mayers, they just don't respond the same way. It's a different composition of plastic. They're great. There's nothing wrong with the Mayer fender. It's really our best choice, but it just doesn't respond to the same techniques as the old ones do. Yes, Joe, they are addictive. I'll tell y'all how I got started in this. I bought one 3-wheeler and I thought, boy, these are cool. Everybody likes it. Everywhere I took it, everybody liked it. And I found another one. And I thought, well, maybe I'll keep one and sell one. And I did that. And then I bought 2 more. And then I found a guy that had 8. He had a small motorcycle shop that had closed down. And I looked everything over and I said, out of the 8, I felt that I could make 4 run. And I didn't know a lot about 3-wheelers. I really didn't. And I was mixing matching parts from different bikes that didn't belong together. And I was able to build 4 of that 8. And I ended up selling those 4, and then that gave me 4 parts bikes that I could use to fix other bikes. And that's really how I got started doing this. It was to offset the collection, which was really at the time only 1 or 2 bikes I was going to keep. And then everything else I was going to buy, kind of fix up and sell, and then I would go off and I'd buy something that I wanted to keep. And that's how I got started. I bought an 85 SX, 250 SX. I still have it. I should do a video. I just haven't. And that just kind of started the memory lane. I grew up on these, but never owned one. Other people had them. I rode them. I always wanted one, and so that's how it started for me. But that's how I did it. It was really, I really thought I was just gonna buy them, and like if there were some cool accessories or cool parts on this one, I'd take off. I put on my keep bikes and then sell that bike, and that kind of the hobby kind of supported itself. Now I've kind of let it get out of control. I haven't sold any bikes in a couple of years now, a year and a half probably, and that's why I have like 15 or 16 bikes, not counting the parts bikes. But that's kind of where I'm at. I need to sell some just because I'm running out of space, and that kind of goes back to what I'm doing here on the next video. Is that all right? Let's try to do this again. You gotta change camera's angles, fellas. Alright, so y'all get to look at my ceiling now. Okay, so anyways, I don't know where we were. That's how it started for me. It just started with one bike, and then I bought a trailer load of 8, and then I bought another trailer load of 6, and it just kind of snowballed from there. My problem now is I feel that if I sell any, I'm not going to have the content to keep the channel going. So that's kind of where I am. I'm kind of stuck there a little bit. We got John McNamara. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. So he's buying and selling. He drove 6 hours to pick up one basket case. So I hope the price was right. So he's back down to 8. Yeah, you're about to run out of bikes. You got to watch that. 8's a small number. Yeah, call me when you get into double digits. It's easy to do. It really is, and it's funny. It's like they just kind of breed. You know, when you get one, you learn about others, and you think, well, hey, I might as well. You know, the price is right. So, what do we got here? See, James has got a 125M. Okay, James, is that the horizontal engine or the vertical engine? He says it runs for a few minutes and dies. Do you think anything like no smoke additives could prolong it? Or should I just go ahead and rebuild it? Hey, Jerry from Utah. It runs pretty bad. Well, James, do a compression test. Find out what the compression is. Download the manual for that bike. Your compression, probably, if it's a horizontal engine, that should be around the 120 maybe. Please check the book. I don't know. The vertical engine should probably be around 140 psi, if that's what it is. Those are really two really bulletproof engines. You say it smokes pretty bad, so it probably just needs a rebuild. It probably needs new rings in the piston. While you're there, go ahead and do the valve stem seals, and that'll take care of your smoking problem. I don't really think additives do a whole lot. No, not really. I don't think that's I don't think additives is really going to help you out much in that. I really don't. Sorry, I know that's not the answer you wanted to hear, but that's my honest answer. Yeah. So I'm just going to tell on Clifton. Clifton sent me a message, and that's what kicked me off for a minute. All right, wait till we're done, Clifton. So, but yeah, it's a horizontal 84. Yeah. So that was the first gen 125M. Was the horizontal engine. I think you're wasting your money. I don't think there's an additive out there that's really going to help you. I think you've probably got worn rings, leaky valve guides, seals, and I just don't think there's going to be an additive that's really going to help you out with that. Yeah, go ahead and order. You can get a kit for those. They're cheap. You know, they're real common, the ATC 70s and the TRX 90s and that whole line of horizontal engines are just really, really bulletproof engines. Yours being the 125, I guess, was the biggest one of that generation, of that type of engine, but it's a good engine. It really is a good engine. John McNamara, let's see, he said he sold one Saturday, drove 6 hours, and I'm back to 8 trucks. Oh, okay, I see. I thought I had to read the comment above, John. Yeah, well, it sounds like you got a good deal. Yes, I just joined Facebook last year and a half. I'm new. I'm a new kid. There's still a lot of places I can't post because my account's so young. I just think that's hilarious. But anyways, aggravates what it is. threewheelerworld.com is where I got my start. And the guys over there, they welcomed me in. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I had one bike. And they welcomed me in, and I just read a lot of information. A lot of things that I've shared with y'all, you'll find there. I'm just reiterating what I've learned, and it is proven. But it's a great source, and you can read it at your own pace. It's not like Facebook. It's not like someone makes a post and so it's relative right then, and then if you miss it, you can't find it. You can go to a regular forum like threewheelerworld.com, and you can sit there and you can read an entire thread that may cover 10 years of different guys taking different approaches to the same problem, and you'll figure out which approach is going to work for you. One guy may come in and have a lot of specialty tools and things, and that's great, and he does the same job his way, and then another guy come in and go, hey, I got a screwdriver and a hammer, and this is how I did it, and he may shed some light on a project or a problem that you have. I like that format. I know it's not as trendy as the Facebook and all of the groups and so forth, but for me, it fits my pace. I can read it at my speed and comprehend it. If I need to take notes or pictures or whatever, it works really well for that. So I encourage you to, that's also a good way to springboard to get your manuals. So highly recommend threewheelerworld.com. What else we got here? Let's see. Have you seen the Yeti kit in person? Yeti kit? Yeti kit. You had to explain that. Explain, Denny, what a Yeti kit is. Are you talking about the guys up in Alaska or wherever they were at that took the 250 ESs and put the big tracks on the back and the skis on the front? Yeah, like a snowmobile. Yeah, I saw that. Man, those guys were thinking right there now. I just don't see how they turn. But I've seen the videos that they posted. It really is some cool stuff. That's the ones I'm thinking of, they made 2 of them. And I think they built the kit themselves. I don't think it was a kit per se that they bought. I thought they engineered it themselves. I'm not certain on that. But yeah, they made it in Ontario. See, there you go, Ontario, Canada. All right, I said Alaska. Sorry, it's close. It's a whole lot further north than where I'm at. But yeah, those are pretty cool. How did they steer? I just don't see with that much traction in the back. I would think that there wouldn't be enough weight in the front for that rudder to really work. But I guess if it dug down in the snow deep enough, then that's where it would get its resistance to turn like a boat. Pretty cool. No, I've never seen one. I'm in Florida. We don't have anything like that here. Everybody down here, they want to put big truck tires on their 3-wheelers, 33s, 36s, 44s. That's Markeith Peacock. That name sounds familiar. I think he's a local 3-wheeler guy. No, I've never had a snowmobile. I've never been norther than, well, I did go to Michigan on a trip one time, but no snow like that. Never a snowmobile. Now we took 4-wheelers and motorcycles best we could, and we run those in the snow of Tennessee where I grew up. But that's only about 12 inches of snow. That really doesn't count, not compared to what y'all were talking about. FL 350. Yeah, I've seen that, Hanky. It's that's a lot of power. That is a whole lot of power. That's Honeycutt's his last name. He's got a channel. He does a lot of buying and selling. We got about 5 more minutes here, fellas, and I got to sign off. We got a video to post tonight at 6 o'clock. Talks about this 200X here behind me. Kind of goes through some of the paces of getting it back up and running from sitting. So I got about 5 more minutes. Y'all got any more questions? That 670 Rotax is a monster. I don't have any personal experience with them, but everything that I've read and seen, those motors are those are crazy motors. Denny, snorkel kits. I got a rule about snorkel kits, Denny. I won't buy a machine that's got one. I'm sorry. That's just, yeah, I see a snorkel on a machine. Whoever put that on there, put it on there for a reason. And that reason is they were going to go somewhere that they probably shouldn't be taking that bike. And as a rule, I don't buy that bike because it's probably been exposed to water and mud and grit. And here in the South, sand is in the water. And it gets in your axles, it gets in your transmissions, it gets in your wheel bearings and headsets, and it's nasty stuff, and it gets everywhere. Do they work? Yeah, snorkels work if they're done properly. The Honda already has a built-in snorkel on most of the bikes. The 350X even has a snorkel. Y'all know that extra tube that comes out of the airbox that goes into the frame on a big red, that frame piece goes all the way up to the neck of the steering underneath the tank. That raises the air intake from under your waist to above the height of the tank. It's about 6 inches or so. I know it's not, you know, up here with a light on it, but it's got somewhat of a factory snorkel. So yeah, they work. They work. I don't like them, but I don't put my machine underwater. So, you know, it's one of those modifications that is specific to putting your machine underwater. If that's what your intentions are, then by all means, please snorkel it. Denny feels the same way. Well, it's just personal preference. You know, if I was out mud bogging like that and there was a chance that my bike would go under, then I would probably have a snorkel on it. But now, because I don't ride that way, I don't see a personal use for it. Yeah, Markeith, that's it. It's the Time Machine channel. He's really more of a buyer and seller, but he does do some customization along the way. I think he bought that machine with that Rotex engine already in it, but that's a lot of power. Yeah, I see. I feel your pain there, Logan. Good luck trying to find that airbox again if you haven't found it. A lot of guys don't know. You know, you don't know what you don't know, and if you don't have experience, if you don't have somebody to tell you these things, that, you know, that guy pulled his airbox out for a winch controller. In his mind, it made sense to him, but you know, age comes wisdom sometimes, I guess. Let's see. Yeah, I want mine to last for a while too. Denny, I'm the same way. Yeah, the 185 is a light machine. I think that bike only weighs around 280. It doesn't weigh that much. So you put a rider on there, you can get in the mud pretty easy, and you can have a lot of fun. Good talking to you, Denny. I appreciate it. Well, I know how that mud and dirt. I used to sink trucks. I used to mud bog, but not this kind of stuff. I took big lifted trucks and did it, and I got tired of cleaning that sand and mud up out of everything. I said, the heck with that. It's cool to watch, but I don't want to clean it up. And again, I wouldn't buy somebody else's big bog truck either. I build one before I buy one. All right, fellas. Well, I appreciate y'all coming in, and I hope y'all enjoyed it and had some fun. And we'll do it again. I'm just going to try to kind of supplement some of the videos with this and just kind of talk to y'all a little bit. Hopefully, answer some questions for you, and you know, just kind of move the ball a little bit further across the field. You know. And so check out tonight's video. It comes on at 6, and it should be airing here any minute. It's about the 200X. About getting it going. We do a carb rebuild, and we do fork boots on the front of that one. So y'all check that out. It's coming up here real soon. Long live the Honda 3-wheel. Well, I tell you, they've already lived a long time if you think about it. I mean, most of these bikes are over 30 years old. I don't see a reason why they wouldn't continue, to be honest with you. Good maintenance go a long way. These machines were really built well. It's I'm just going to say it. I think they're built better than the new Honda stuff, and I think Honda is a great company. I think they put out a wonderful product, generators and cars, and that Honda Ridgeline I kind of scratched my head over. But overall, I think they put out a great product. But these era of bikes, Odysseys, motorcycles, dirt three-wheelers, mini bikes, there's just something about them. The materials that they used, the engineering that they had. These bikes could last. They could outlast us. That would not be out of the realm of possibility. That's right. They're simple and tough. Logan's got it down. He knows. Well, I appreciate y'all coming in, James. I do. This is a new venture for me. So we'll see. I've been doing this a year now. Me and Preston go back and forth. We keep each other motivated and so forth. So we're both having a lot of fun with this, and happy to bring y'all along. But I got to sign off. It's 5:58 here, and so I got to get ready for tonight's video. It'll be coming out here in just a minute. I appreciate y'all watching. Y'all take care. Y'all have a good evening, and I'll see you in the next week or so. Okay? Bye.